Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. We are now, what is it, just over 48 hours away from the draft as we record this. I can't wait. We've got so much going on, so many rumors flying around all over the place. This is going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you do join us right here live on the NBA Front Office Show. During the draft, we're going to be breaking down every pick, all the trades, all the rumors, all that stuff. So come join us, hang out with us during the draft. Keith, I don't know if I can't quite consider this the calm before the storm because there's stuff going on, but it all feels like this is the appetizer leading up to the big meal that we all can't wait for coming up on Thursday.
Yeah, I completely agree. We're in a spot where with the draft starting here in just a couple of days, there's a million draft rumors flying around.
Mhm.
It's also different. These guys have pushed these option decision dates so early now. It used to be basically no one's option was due until after the draft. And now we've got all these guys who options are due coming up. So we're gonna get a bunch of those that made decisions here today. So there's just a ton of stuff happening. The Beal trade is not done yet, right? We're still waiting to see, is Chris Paul going to get routed to a third team? What is that going to look like? So just a million things happening. So I'm super excited for all the stuff to get into and talk about.
Yeah, tons going on around the NBA world. And I guess let's start with the thing that surprised both of us. Gary Trent Jr. opted into his contract with the Toronto Raptors and sounds like maybe he wants to stay there. I don't know what the Raptors are doing, Keith, and I don't think anybody does. They are the team of mystery heading into the draft. But is this a sign that maybe Gary Trent Jr.'s market was just not going to be there in free agency, or what does this mean? Gary Trent Jr. opting in to $18 million and change for next season.
Yeah, again, right. We're grown ups. We don't get all up in arms over tampering type stuff in early conversations. So
True.
my guess is Gary Trent and his reps at Clutch Sports had some conversations and realized there's probably not a $20 million offer waiting for him in free agency from one of the cap space teams. There's probably more like mid-level exception offers around 12 million, or there might have been a handful of teams that were like, hey, we'll do a sign and trade, but we want you at the number you're on now, or something like that. And Toronto may have given them an idea of, we don't really want to do that, right? That's not
Mm-hmm.
where we want to go trade wise. So I think we're in a spot here with Trent where he opted in because the idea for him is, all right, it's now at least I'm done. I know what I'm getting for next year. We can figure everything else out from there, whether it's an extension with the Raptors or it's I'll hit the market next year and there'll be maybe a little bit more money and better options or whatever it is. So, but yeah, coming back to Toronto for the Raptors side, I'm with you, man. I don't know what they're doing either, right? Still have Siakam, have Anunoby, have Barnes.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like Van Vliet is probably out of the picture in Toronto. There was a reporting almost right after this from a couple of the Toronto-based reporters who were, yeah, this doesn't impact anything with Van Vliet. It's not a full run it back situation. And there's now even been some talks of, does this put the squeeze on Jakob Poeltl some because he's a free agent? Clearly they wanted to re-sign him after investing in a first round pick to get him, but they also apparently don't really want to go into the tax for this team. So again, much like we've been saying since December, everybody's kind of still watching the Raptors to see, do they actually pick a direction, or do they just kind of keep floating along with this team that's kind of good but not really good enough?
There was some reporting too that the Raptors and a number of other teams in the East look at what Miami did this year and say, well, we're not that much worse than Miami. Why can't that be
Sure.
us? I think that's a little foolhardy because
Yeah.
what Miami did this year is not something that's typical. It's not something you could bank on happening every single year. It's an extreme rarity. I mean, what was it? Was it 1999? Was that the last time an 8 seed
Yeah,
made
the
it
Knicks that year,
with
and
the
that was a
Knicks?
weird lockout season too, where it was like
Right.
a sprint of a season. So seedings were very, very messy. And then definitely. It's yeah, nobody should be looking at Miami and saying we can repeat that. Or even,
Right.
your Lakers, right? And saying, yeah, you could come out of the play-in tournament and make it all the way to the conference
Sure.
finals. You obviously can. And there's going to be situations, right? The Lakers, were basically two different teams last year, right? They were the not so good team before the trade deadline, or I guess before mid-January. And then they were the very good team after that. So
Mhm.
that's why they made their run. The Heat were a team that just kind of puttered along all season, had a lot of injuries, a lot of guys in and out of the lineup, and then they finally took off. When they got mostly healthy. Clearly they didn't have Tyler Hero, but yeah, I would not, I would not look at that as my strategy. Yeah, we can
No.
be fine. Well, we're just fine to be somewhere between the seventh and 10th seed, and we'll make our run from there. That's probably not a overall great approach to approaching your regular season.
No, no, not the way that you want to do things at all. But again, all eyes are going to be on the Raptors. We'll see. Do they just continue to ride the fence, or do they make a decision? Hey, we're going to go for it. We're going to try to win games, or do they go the other way and say, hey, we're going to move some of these guys? Then, like you said, does that surprisingly put Jakob Poeltl out onto the market as an available player? We'll see how it all plays out. But they're a team that everybody's just confused about what they're doing right now, and maybe we'll have clarity by the draft. Maybe not.
And
Again, they're the team of mystery.
And let's just be clear too. No guarantee this means they keep Gary Trent Jr. either, right? They could still turn around and trade him. Now he's now trade eligible at the draft because he's already opted in, so he's already locked in. So we more to come with Toronto. We'll obviously continue to monitor that all the
Mhm.
way through.
All right. There was a big shift in the odds for the second overall pick, and it swung very heavily in the favor of Scoot Henderson. And this happened just today. Usually, when stuff like that happens with the betting lines, it's because someone knows something. So, this doesn't mean for sure that something is happening, but when we see stuff like this, it just your ears perk up and you kind of say, okay, this is something we need to pay attention to because it means either the Hornets, who were supposed to have Scoot and Brandon Miller in for second workouts, have changed their mind potentially on which one they like more. And we've been hearing Brandon Miller number two for a while now, and he's still that way in a lot of the mock drafts. But either that has changed or a trade could be in the works for number two. So again, nothing for sure, but just when you see that drastic of a shift in odds, it tells you something is probably afoot behind the scenes.
Yeah, definitely. It's like last year, right? Paulo Banchero shifted, I think, the day of the draft very heavily to being the number one pick. And that was after, for a long time, it had been Jabari Smith was the guy that people thought was going to go there. So, yeah, that does become a very, thing to watch and monitor with this. I think there's just so much noise right now after Wembanyama of Miller or Henderson. Is someone going to trade up? We heard further kind of reporting of Zion could be in play
Mhm.
for the Pelicans to trade if they can get Scoot Henderson, or are the Hornets interested? Now the Hornets pulling a Sam Hinkie and like, we'll just take Scoot Henderson and then force you to trade with us. Like,
Right.
there's all sorts of things that could be in play here with this. That's going to make it a lot of fun, but it is making it a little like, all right, where are things going? Little anxious moments there for some of these teams where more often in the draft you could kind of map out how you think the top 3 or 4 are going to go, and clearly that's not a thing right now.
Is there any chance that we get the draft day swerve like we saw last season? It was Agatha all along or something like that coming up in this year's draft. I mean, what the Orlando Magic pulled off last year would be pretty hard to top, but it feels like maybe there's some room for some shenanigans in this year's draft.
Yeah, for sure. There are. The reports are Henderson and Miller went in to do that second workout with Charlotte, with Michael Jordan in attendance. Sounds like it went well for both of them. So I don't know if that necessarily changed anything there. So, there, I believe it's Jonathan Givony, last I checked, which was a couple hours ago, he still had Miller mocked as the second pick there. And I checked a couple of the others, same sort of things.
Mhm.
But what I have also seen is multiple of those same people who are mocking Miller to the Hornets at 2 have Scoot Henderson at 2 on their board. So maybe the
Mm.
Hornets are being swayed by the idea of, hey, if we really think Henderson's a guy after Wembanyama, let's just get him and we'll figure all the rest out. Right. We'll figure it out. We still have other trade options we could go through and other stuff, that we can do. So yeah, I'm beyond excited. I mean, it's as fun as it's going to be to watch a bunch of Wembanyama highlights for a little bit at the top of the draft. it's gonna be way more fun to watch when they
Yes.
get into that pick's been made and the Hornets are on the clock because that's where the fireworks could start.
Yeah, it starts at 2. And yeah, I am indeed. I'm looking at the Gavoni mock right now, and it is indeed Brandon Miller still at number 2. But it'll be interesting to see if that changes. Do we get the kind of shift like we saw last year, where it was Jabari Smith, Jabari Smith, Jabari? Oh no, wait, it's Ben Caro. We'll see.
News is gonna break, just so everybody knows, sometime between 8 and 9:30 Eastern. I have to go get my driver's license renewed
Oh,
Thursday morning, first thing. So news will break then.
okay. So that's what now we know. Now we know. So that's Eastern time.
Yep.
Be ready.
Eastern
Be
time. Yep.
ready.
Yep.
News will break while Keith is stuck in line at the DMV. Is it DMV in Florida?
Yeah,
It's
DMV.
DMV, okay.
Yep.
It's like in Arizona, it's MVD. Like, they just wanted to flip the numbers around just to
Right.
mess with everybody,
And in
move the letters around.
Massachusetts, we called it, where I was growing up, we called it the registry because it was the registry of motor vehicles.
Oh
It
my
was the
gosh.
the RMV.
The
So
RMV.
yeah, but yeah, we actually do it at the tax collector office, and there's like 900 other million things you can do in there. It's an absolute freaking nightmare. So my real goal is to be out by the time the draft starts, and my appointment's at 8:30 in the morning. So hopefully, I'm out of there in under 12 hours.
Oh boy. Well, good luck to you that day, and, yeah, I'm ready for news to break while you are right when you're mid in the middle of the line.
Yep.
Okay, the Blazers could be targeting Bam Adebayo. This is news that came out today that and I'll take the punctuation out there, but this was news that came out
Bam.
today that Bam Adebayo was potentially a trade target for the Blazers, that they could be packaging together. Players like Shaden Sharp could be taking, of course, their number 3 pick and trying to get Bam. Anthony Simons could be part of this kind of deal as well. Miami has already kind of put out word that no, we're not going to be doing that. I wouldn't imagine them doing that. Is this real? Do you think, like, or is this kind of the Blazers like we saw with the Mavs, right, a couple weeks ago, where the Mavs like kind of made it known, like, oh, well, Kyrie might just recruit LeBron to Dallas. Why isn't the Stars going to go to LA?
Sure.
Is this the Blazers just doing that same kind of thing? Like, oh no, you're not trading for our star. How about we just bring your star to us? Is that what's going on here? Like the Blazers just kind of messing with the Heat?
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of Joe Cronin and the Blazers front office saying, "Man, they put out that they didn't really want Beal, that they're holding out for Dame. Why don't we put out we're trying to get their guy,
Yeah,
right? We're trying
exactly.
to get their guy." Pat Riley threw cold water without directly addressing it. He basically said, "We love Bam," and then he went on to compare him to like Alonzo Mourning. So I think that kind of tells you how he feels about Bam Adebayo. So I think we're in a spot where probably doesn't really mean anything necessarily. I think we're maybe we're seeing Portland try to make a run and figure this stuff out and try to get somebody. I apologize. I know I'm a little bouncy. We've got a pretty good thunderstorm going on here, so that's why my internet's bouncing. I think, but it is we're in a spot where I think Portland's putting the word out. Hey, we're not looking to trade Dame, right? We're going after guys around him. We're not just going after little upgrades. We're going after big fish
Mhm.
here. Now, how they would get to Bam, obviously be the third pick and probably Simons and Nurkic or something. I don't know, but I'd say there's like a 1% chance that this happens and goes down like this.
Yeah, I don't see that happening at all. Miami's
Yeah, one
Miami's looking
percent
to
is
add
probably
talent.
about
Not
a percent too high.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Another thing that's kind of surprising that's out there right now. The Grizzlies could be looking at Tyus Jones trades. Now, you on the surface, you would say, well, they're going to be missing John Morant for a number, what, 25 games is what they settled on. Um, you would want Tyus Jones, who is arguably the best backup point guard in the NBA, and that would allow you to just kind of keep going, just as they've done in the past few seasons. Anytime Ja has been out, Tyus slides into the starting lineup, and the Grizzlies just keep on rolling. Why now, Keith? Why are they looking at trades? And the rumor is that they're looking at trades that would land Tyus a starting point guard job somewhere.
Yeah, my guess is probably some of it is let's try to take care of him, get him into a starting role. He's going into his walk year of his contract. I wonder if there's also part of it seemed to be if they could dangle Tyus Jones to get a small forward. Now I wonder how much of this is old, right? It was this before
Mhm.
the Josh suspension came down,
Good point.
right? Is it, is that part of, what this is, or is this new? And they're saying, hey, we're going to figure it out one way or another. Maybe they have a plan for their MLE to get one of these free agent point guards, and they feel pretty good about that, or maybe they're going to get a real playmaking small forward is what they feel like they get. So yeah, it's a little weird, but we'll see. It was very interesting. Matt Moore of the Action Network, who gets some pretty good intel, he said, I'm paraphrasing, but I think he said the two guys he expects most to get traded, Tobias Harrison and Tyus Jones. So I think
Mhm.
that part becomes a little interesting there with that. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how that all comes together.
Yeah, and what are they going to get in return? Do they get that small forward? Obviously, Dylan Brooks is not going to get a contract. What was the terminology they used?
Under no circumstance,
Under
I
no
think. Will he be
circumstances. That was
back?
it.
Something like
Will he be
that.
back? So they're going to find a wing, but if you do that, then you leave yourself kind of thin at point guard. So it'd be interesting to see
Yeah.
how the Grizzlies do handle this. But like you said, it's
Yep.
possible that this is intel from pre Ja Morant suspension, although they had to expect it was coming. So
Yeah, it
um,
might just be, maybe they thought it was going to be less and we could just get by for, a month without him instead
mhm.
of, a month and a half worth of games, almost 2 months, for the start of the year. I don't know, man. It's going to be really interesting because I think that at this point, I just hang on to Tyus Jones because there's
Yeah.
no guarantee, Josh stays even healthy, right? The way he plays, it's part of why we love him as a player, but it's also a high risk, way he plays, right? He's got a lot of that Allen Iverson in him where it's just, I'm going to drive in there and get hammered and knocked down, but I'm not going to keep doing it. I'm not going to change, my style, and it just leads to injuries. So, we'll see. I would, if I was Memphis, I'd keep Tyus Jones and just keep it rolling. And then if Ja's back, everything seems good. Maybe you could trade him at the trade deadline, to a
Mhm.
team that's looking for a starting point guard for the rest of the year. But for now, I don't know. I think I'd be more likely to just hang on to him.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I agreed 100%. I think they should just hang on to him, and I think that's what's going to allow them to stay afloat while Jaw is out. But we'll see if they make a different call. The Jazz have made Colin Sexton available in trade talks. This is a guy that you and I have talked a lot about because of his scoring efficiency, about
Hmm.
him not being like a chucker type of guard that puts up points but takes him a bunch of shots in order to get it. But what is the market really for a guy who probably projects to be like a sixth man
Yeah.
scorer off the bench for somebody. What do you think the return is that the Jazz can expect for a guy like Sexton?
Yeah. Probably not much of one. My guess is they're trying to, and it sounds like the reporting is they're trying really hard to move up and to get up higher in the draft. And
Mhm,
if they can, it sounds like they're willing to throw Sexton into one of those deals, or maybe it is a separate thing entirely, but it probably takes a team that's like, like the Celtics a year ago was very clear, like we could use another bench scoring guard. And they went out and got Malcolm Brogdon and he filled that role great and won six man of the year. You need a team like that that says, what we really need is a bench scoring guard, but then has the ability to acquire Colin Sexton. That becomes the tricky part, right there. You've got to also have the ability to go get him. So yeah, I really don't know. I'm not entirely sure where this one goes. Hey, I don't want to be too dismissive and say he was a throw in the Donovan Mitchell trade, but
mhm.
obviously he was in that in part to make the math work. In that trade, he hadn't signed up until then, right? If we remember, he was just kind of languishing out there in restricted free agency. And then when the Mitchell trade came up, it was like, all right, well, Sexton's going to be part of it as a sign and trade. And then Laurie Markkinen also was, again, not exactly a throw in, but was just kind of, all right, he's coming over in the trade. We'll see what we have here. And he broke out into all-star level. We'll see if Sexton can maybe make that leap. If I was the Jazz, I might just keep him,
Yeah.
and play him. He's on a very reasonable contract for what he is as a player. And if you're trying to be a good team, in the next year or so, Colin Sexton could definitely be a part of that.
Especially depending on what they plan to do with Jordan Clarkson here.
Mm-hmm.
That can certainly matter here. And so what they're going to do with him might be important
Clarkson,
as
Taylor
we work
Horton
at this.
Tucker too, right? Like
Sure.
that's another one. Where does he go in this whole thing? So yeah, that's an interesting guard mix in Utah for sure. And what comes in the draft, right? Because if you draft another guard, then it starts to become all right. That's probably too many guys, and
Yeah.
something's got to give, and somebody has to go there. And it sounds like the guy they want to move up for is Anthony Black. who is a combo guard, probably gonna be an on-ball guy quite a bit. And in that case, if that's where you're going, yeah, I can see why you're saying, hey, can we throw Sexton in and grease the wheels a little bit here to jump up in the draft? Problem is, we're hearing them kind of sort of connected to Orlando and maybe Washington in the challenge in Indiana. Or sorry, Orlando and Indiana to try to get ahead of Washington.
Oh yeah.
And the problem is the last thing Orlando and Indiana need is another guard. They've got a bunch of guards already. So that's probably what's making this a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and so the next thing you know, you're talking 3-team trade, and we all know 3-team trades are where trade talks go to die, and it gets messy. But again, they've got just over 48 hours until the draft.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what could come together, but potentially a name that could be on the move. Colin Sexton, he's a good player. I don't know, like if you've got, is that enough to move up in the lottery? Colin Sexton, is he enough to make it work?
I mean, you'd have to use probably 2 of your picks too.
Yeah.
You're probably talking your higher pick and then whatever your middle pick is to try to move up. But you're not talking about trying to move up to Scoot Henderson range, right? You're talking, and we're just trying to move up a handful of spots here. So maybe, but again, those teams aren't, the teams, it's who are you trading up with, right? Are they trying to win? Or they feel like they need Colin Sexton? That's where it gets a little bit messier.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Kyle Kuzma, not a surprise here at all. He opts out of his contract, would have paid him $13 million and change this coming season. He is going to get a nice pay raise. You're projecting somewhere in the 20 to 25 million range. I think that makes a lot of sense for Kyle Kuzma. Where he's going to get it from, I don't know. The Wizards could still be in play in a sign and trade scenario. The cap space teams. Well, the thing with Kuzma is he could fit fairly well a lot of places.
Yeah.
So where he winds up, there could be any number of landing spots for him, but who's willing to pay him that? And then our team's willing to trade something in a sign and trade scenario in order to be able to pay him that. That's going to be the thing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, just if we run through the cap space teams very quickly, Detroit, if they're trying to be good, yeah, they could probably bring in Kuzma. It's a little weird because you have Bogdanovich, and that starts to become a little bit of an overlap there, but you could bring him in. Houston, great kind of target, right? Especially if you're not chasing the max guys,
Yeah.
but the next tier down, Kuzma would be good. Indiana is one of my favorite landing spots for him because they need anybody who's a forward size guy who could do anything. Makes a lot of sense for Oklahoma City. They could use another scoring guy, especially with some forward size. Orlando, maybe, right? A little bit of a weird spot because they've got Banchero, they've got Franz Wagner. But if you wanted to say, all right, we're going to put Franz at the 2 and play pretty big, let's go. San Antonio, yeah, if you're trying to win quicker around Wembanyama, why not? And then Utah, depending on where they go, again, a little bit weird fit because it kind of overlaps with Markkanen some. But played his college ball in Utah, you could see that being away. And then, like you said, there's a ton of sign and trade possibilities that could be there. So he was always going to opt out. 13 million was never going to be in the range for him. No. He's far outplayed that contract. That was a surprisingly good contract for the Lakers when the Lakers gave it to him 3 years ago.
And they didn't even use it. They traded it like the day he got onto that contract, they traded him.
Yeah, turn around and moved him. But that was one where it was like, I remember at the time it was like, wow, he took a very team-friendly deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you said, then they hey, congratulations, you're in the Westbrook trade, right? So that's why, right? And that's kind of the problem. These team friendly deals sound awesome on the front end till the player outplays it. Then it's like we can't really extend them because even with the new good extension rules, which wouldn't apply to Kuzma because he's a free agent now, but even with those new extension rules, that wouldn't have been enough here.
What is it now? 150%? Is that right?
140.
140. I knew it was right in there. So even 140% of 13 million, he's going to make more than that hitting free agency. So that's the downside.
Hey, while we're on new CBA stuff, just very quickly, as I was prepping a bunch of stuff for the summer, something I put out there on Twitter is we've coined it the Pelinka rule. One cool caveat of that second round pick exception to sign is if you're a cap space team, it doesn't count against your cap space if you sign one of those players until July 31st. So basically, July 31st, free agency is more or less over, right? We're kind of down to it. There'll probably be 1 or 2 teams still sitting on some cap space, but the big stuff's already done. So why they did that, my guess is removes the need to delay signing a player with that if you're trying to use cap space. Because if you're trying to use cap space, you don't necessarily want to sign the guy to the second round pick exception and have him taking up $2 million of your cap space. So what's going to happen is you can sign him to it right away, right after the draft if you want to. Put him on that exception, and then that money sits off your cap space until until July 31st. That's when it'll go against it. So kind of cool there, and it avoids the whole thing of, well, we had to delay signing him, and we can finally sign the guy on the 10th of July. Now he's missed half a summer league and all this other stuff. So I think that the change, it's been several years now of all first rounders count against the cap at 120% until they're signed, because that's what the vast majority of them signed for. Anyway, that was a great change. They've basically removed, there's no reason to delay signing your draft picks now if you're using one of these avenues for it. So I just thought it was kind of a neat thing to share with the world and put out there, because I hadn't seen anybody else report on that yet.
No, that's a very smart change by the NBA, because like you said, that takes away any incentive for a guy not to play in summer league. Yeah. It doesn't put you in a difficult situation where you're asking a guy to play without having a contract, which sometimes we've seen. Yeah. So I think this is just it's a no-brainer. It's a clear, hey, we should have always been doing this type of thing, but glad to see that they're just, go ahead and making that a thing. So now we're going to see these guys play. They're going to the players get the experience they want. The teams get them on the floor. The players still get to sign their contract. It's a win for everybody all around. So it makes a lot of sense for them to do that.
Big time.
Another player who opted in, Damian Jones. No surprise.
It was former Laker opt-in day. Apparently.
All the former Laker opt-ins. Yeah. Day, I guess. Damian Jones opts into his deal, and so he will, unless he's traded, will stick with the Utah Jazz. Actually showed a little bit of 3-point shooting ability last season. Did it with the Kings the previous season as well. But
it was. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but he was really good with the Kings. We liked that signing for the Lakers when they made it, because we're like, hey,
absolutely.
Damian Jones, 2 years at the minimum. That feels pretty good, right? I remember there was a point in time where we talked. I think it was probably on one of the live shows where we were like, he might be the starting center, right, with AD at the 4, and then he was terrible, just fell off the planet. I don't know what happened, with that.
I think LeBron threw a few lobs to him and he didn't come close to catching them, and LeBron just went, that's it. That's it. We're pulling the plug here.
There's an old story about Michael Jordan where he went into a practice and he was firing bullet passes at Bill Cartwright. He was mad they had traded Charles Oakley for Bill Cartwright, and he was just rifling these passes. And then Phil Jackson pulled him aside and was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "He can't catch, Phil. Why'd you make the trade?" And started yelling at Phil Jackson and Jerry Krause. And then Bill Cartwright was like, "Throw it at my face. If you throw it at my face, I'll catch it every single time." And then that's how they worked it out, and they figured it out with that. But I think he fumbled a few too many passes out of bounds from LeBron, and LeBron was like, "All right, dude, see you later. You're off to the back of the bench with you."
And that was the end of that. But best of luck to him. Damian Jones, he's a guy who's if he does stretch out to the 3-point line a little bit, and he's a lob finisher and all of that, maybe he can stick around here. But hopefully it works out.
And we'll see, maybe, if Utah gets to a point where they need the roster spot, they're so far into the tax that if they just straight up waived him, it ate it as dead money, that wouldn't even hurt them anyway. No. They'd be fine. But my guess is they'll probably just stick on roster, and it'll be Walker Kessler's one of his backups, going into the season.
Absolutely, man. Walker Kessler. I can't wait. I can't wait for the FIBA World Cup. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, right.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
He's good, man.
Yeah, he is.
He's really good.
Hey, what a concept, right? Just block everything.
Yeah, right.
Just block everything, right?
It's gonna be, if you're Jazz fans, you're kind of like, man, we traded Rudy Gobert for Rudy Gobert Jr.
Right,
and he makes a 10th of what Rudy Gobert makes. This is great. Let's go.
And we got all these picks.
Pretty good about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But on top of it too, we have 9 million draft picks coming as well. Yeah, pretty good. Vegas, pretty good at his job.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. The Vegas budget for an expansion arena goes up. Makes it all the more likely that Vegas is going to be the landing spot of an NBA team when inevitably the NBA does expand. Keith, we were talking off air. You told me it went up to $10 billion.
Yep.
We need a little Dr. Evil drop or something.
$10 billion.
But what was it at prior to that?
3 billion is what they had planned
Cool.
for this. This is the same guy. I think you say Tim Lewicki. I think is how you say that, or Lewicki.
Wiki. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. His group is the group that did the rebuild of Climate Pledge Arena in
Hmm.
Seattle, formerly Key Arena, there in Seattle. And now he is basically saying, hey, the group for here, this would be a brand new facility in Las Vegas, and they're plugging along with it. And I continue to believe you're not putting $10 billion into potentially building an arena without having a fairly good plan, an idea that you have a team coming your way. So
Hmm.
I've said it over and over again. It's just a matter of time till the NBA announces, probably sometime within the next few years. And I think it's going to be Seattle and Las Vegas. And then we'll see what they do with conferences and readjustments, all that stuff, because that
Hmm.
could be a good opportunity to kind of change the whole model and look at everything a little bit differently. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, 10 million bucks. Like
Billion
that to
with a
me
B.
says, yeah, 10 billion. Yep, with a
Yeah.
B. Yeah, 10 billion bucks. So that says to me, let's go with this right here. You're
Hmm.
probably going to be a team playing in Las Vegas here pretty soon.
I mean, you've got NHL is there, the NFL is there, MLB is going.
Yep.
Now you're going to have, I mean, this is going to be, I think, a clear landing spot for an NBA team where you've got the Oakland A's that are going to be going there. And
Yeah.
now, and even you look at like the Aces have had a ton of success in
Hmm.
WNBA, the Las Vegas Lights in soccer.
Yeah.
That's been a club that's
Yeah.
been, rumored to be, at some point maybe becoming an MLS team.
Yep.
The professional sports in the United States have been flocking to Las Vegas over the last
Their
decade.
connection to the NBA with Summer League,
Summer
right?
League
Like
already there.
that's
Yep.
huge already. It was funny. I had someone suggest to me what they wonder is could the NBA turn Summer League then into like a traveling thing? If it's like you have a team now, you have your established thing in the city. Could Summer League become something where you move it around to different cities, around the country? I still think Las Vegas is just so perfectly suited for
Yeah.
what Summer
I,
League
I I
is.
vote no.
So yeah, I'm fine with. I'm not even. This. I'm not a huge Vegas guy,
No.
but for the week each year that we go out there for summer league, it's great. And
Well,
speaking of, we'll
it's
be
coming up.
there this year.
It's
Can't wait.
coming up.
Coming up very rapidly. Before we know it, we're gonna get done
Yep.
with the draft. We're gonna do a bunch of late night live shows, and it's gonna be like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow, right? That's gonna be kind of how it is. So I'm pretty excited about that. When we get out there, once we're out there, we are gonna we'll figure out something. We'll tell people, like, hey, we're gonna be
Mhm.
hanging out here. Come by and say hi if you want to. For everybody who likes the show, that'll be out there. And I've said it before: if you've never been to summer league and you love the NBA, go to summer
Mhm.
league. Just take the time. Hotels in Vegas aren't outrageously expensive, especially in the middle of July because a lot of regular tourists are like it's too hot
It's too hot.
to go. So, but yeah, if you could get there, go. It's NBA Comic Con. That's the best way I can explain it.
Mhm.
Everybody's there, and it's a ton of fun. You get to see all the rookies, and the two gyms are literally across the hall from each other, so you can, and your ticket gets you into both. You can bounce between the two gyms, so it's an absolute blast.
Well,
If
that's
you're a basketball junkie, it's no better place to be.
that's just it. Like I in terms of selfishly, our studio is there in Vegas, so of course I wanted to stay
Mhm.
in Las Vegas for those selfish reasons. But which, by the way, maybe we'll just tell everybody when we're going to be recording in studio. People could come
Yeah,
see the
yeah,
show
come check
live.
it
But
out.
but um, Las Vegas, you've got all the hotels that you need. That's built in, right, for the thousands of people that are going to come for Summer League. You've got the two arenas side by side where you can walk
So
back and
huge,
forth between them. Finding those two things, the number of hotels
tough.
and the arenas in close proximity to that's such a difficult challenge. So obviously, selfishly, I'm biased. I don't want it to leave Las Vegas because our studio is there and I want to be able to use that at the same time. But um, yeah, I just think that built-in infrastructure that Vegas offers would be difficult to replicate for the full summer. Like I know Orlando did a summer league for a while. Of course, there's the California Classic summer league, like Utah
Yeah,
did a summer league, but to do a full all 30 teams are there summer league, you need something like Las Vegas
yeah, and you
to do it.
need big arena. Like it is. Selfishly for me, I would love it if Disney ever bid to host Summer League like they did the bubble
Sure.
because they've got the three arenas that obviously you can play NBA games in because I already did that, once already. And then, they've got, we've got as many hotel rooms here in Orlando as Las Vegas does. But, the problem is for Disney, that's the middle of peak, course time. Like they're not necessarily going to be like, yeah, we need one more thing going on here on property at that time. I know they were hopeful to had the NBA move forward with, hey, the midseason tournament's going to take place in one site. Disney was hopeful to be involved with that because they like the idea of, hey, in January, everybody want to come to Florida for 4 or 5 days, and play this thing. And they went a slightly different way with the in-season tournament, which makes sense and no issue with that. But yeah, it's a lot of lot of pluses to Vegas. So I'm perfectly happy that it's out there again, and I can't wait to get out there, man. It's gonna be so much fun. It's and I just love seeing everybody, right? People from the teams and other media people that some people that for 50 weeks a year, 51 weeks a year, they exist as an online only relationship, and then this 1 week you can kind of see everybody, so it's good. Now, selfishly too, I'm very glad we are going at the front end because the back end of summer league, that gets to be a kind of sad place.
It does. It starts to clear out a little bit, and a lot of the top names have been pulled from games, and
So, and if we get news Wembanyama's playing, I'm in the gym as soon as it opens, and I'm posting up, and I'm not leaving my seat. I'll stay right where I am, until we get to see him play. I'm not going anywhere because I missed out on seeing him play out there earlier in those exhibitions. So I'll definitely be locked in if he plays. And my guess is we're going to get a game or two of him. I think he wants it. I think the league wants it. I think Spurs are okay with it. So yeah, we're going to get a game or two of him in Las Vegas for sure.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribing right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Don't forget to turn on those notifications. Of course, follow us over on the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow breaking down all of tomorrow's news and rumors, everything that happens tonight, of course, as well, because this time of year, you just never know when the next big story is going to drop. We are on our toes. Oh, well, actually, sorry, we do know. When Keith is in line at the DMV,
that's it. That's Thursday morning.
Big story is going to
Thursday morning. Yeah.
I don't know.
Draft day morning. Yeah. Something's going to happen between 8 and like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Hopefully, and that's me being very optimistic. That's the length of time I will be there. I'm hoping I can literally walk in, give him my old ID, take a new picture with my bright smiling face, and move on and get out of there. But we all know how it goes at the DMV.
Well, best of luck to you there. And again, thank you everybody for joining us. Till next time, stay safe and see you.